Hello and welcome back to the F1 Visa Navigator. I'm Christine Matunda, and today we are focusing on one of the biggest reasons student visa applicants get denied: inconsistent answers. It might seem like a small issue, but even minor contradictions can make a major impact on the outcome of your interview. So let's dive into why consistency matters so much and how you can make sure your story stays straight. So why does consistency matter? Visa officers are trained to notice even the smallest contradictions. They have your application details like the DS-160 form and supporting documents right in front of them, so they will catch it if your spoken answers don't match what you've written or what you've said earlier. When your answers don't align with your documents or with each other, the officer may assume you're hiding something or not being completely truthful. In short, a single inconsistent answer can overshadow all the good answers you've given, which is why maintaining consistency throughout your interview is absolutely crucial. Now, understanding the importance of consistency is one thing, but let's talk about what can actually go wrong when your answers are not consistent. Here are some common problems. When your answers are inconsistent, it often creates three main problems for your credibility as an applicant. First, it makes you appear less credible. If you give conflicting information, the officer will start to question which version of your story is true, and you risk looking unreliable. Second, inconsistency can signal that you're not well prepared. It might seem like you haven't done your homework or that you don't know the details of your own plans, which can be a big red flag. Finally, giving different answers to the same question or providing information that doesn't match your documents can give the impression that you're being dishonest. Even small slips like forgetting a date, naming two different reasons for choosing a particular university, or varying your explanation about who your sponsor is may be treated as dishonesty or an attempt to mislead. In the eyes of the officer, if you're not consistent on the little things, they'll wonder what else might be wrong with your application. So, what do these problems look like in a real interview setting? To really understand how damaging inconsistency can be, let's go through a realistic scenario. Imagine this scenario. The visa officer smiles and asks, "Why did you choose XYZ University?" You respond confidently, "I chose it because my cousin studied there and recommended it to me. She had a great experience." So far, so good. You've given a reason that seems legitimate. Now later in the interview, the officer casually asks, "Do you have any relatives in the US?" Without thinking, you answer, "No, I don't have any relatives there." In that instant, the officer will catch the contradiction. A moment ago, you mentioned a cousin in the US, and now you're saying you have no relatives there. That inconsistent answer could end your interview immediately. The officer might stop right there or follow up with a probing look or question, but either way, you've lost credibility. What started as a friendly conversation has now taken a turn, and the officer is suddenly much more skeptical of everything you say. Here's another common example. The officer asks, "Who is sponsoring your education?" And you promptly answer, "My parents are my sponsors." There's nothing wrong with that answer by itself. But later, the officer asks a follow-up question about your parents' occupations, something like, "What do your father and mother do for a living?" You then explain that your father is retired and your mother does not work. Now think about that. If both parents have no current income, how could they realistically afford to sponsor your studies? Right there, the officer will see a serious inconsistency in your story. Either someone else is actually providing the funds and you didn't disclose that, or your financial documents might not be genuine. This discrepancy makes the officer doubt your entire financial setup. They might ask more pointed questions about your funding, or worse, they might conclude that you've been misleading and decide to reject the visa application on the spot. These scenarios show how even an innocent mistake or a slip of the tongue can snowball into a big problem during the interview. One moment you're doing fine, and the next moment the officer's trust in your story evaporates. It's important to remember that visa interviews are typically very short, often just a few minutes long, and the officer has to make a quick judgment about you. If you create any confusion or contradiction in that short window, it can dominate the officer's impression of you. Now that we have seen how inconsistencies can play out in practice, let's talk about how to avoid these pitfalls. What's the key takeaway to ensure you don't fall into the inconsistency trap? The lesson here is simple. Keep your answers truthful, clear, and consistent with your documents and prior statements. The best way to do this is through preparation and practice. Well, before your interview, review all the information you provided in your visa application and any documents you'll be presenting. Make sure you know your own story inside and out. Dates, names, finances, reasons for choosing your university, your career plans after graduation, everything. If there is something in your documents that might raise questions, plan how you'll explain it clearly and honestly so that your answer remains consistent. Remember that these interviews are short, so you have only one chance to demonstrate that you're honest, confident, and have a clear purpose for your studies in the US. If a question catches you off guard, it's okay to take a brief pause and think, or even ask for clarification rather than blurting out something that contradicts your previous answers. It's better to be slightly slow but consistent and accurate than to be quick and inconsistent. And above all, never try to guess what the officer wants to hear by making something up. Stick to the truth. Honesty is non-negotiable because any lie, no matter how small, can lead to a visa denial and potentially bar you from reapplying for a long time. Staying consistent in your answers builds a picture of you as a sincere and prepared student. That impression goes a long way in convincing the officer that you're a legitimate applicant who deserves that F1 visa. To wrap up today's Navigator tip, stay consistent, stay calm, and stay prepared. Always double-check your information and practice how you'll respond so there are no surprises for you or the officer. At the International Scholars Program, this is exactly what we prepare students to do. Take the next step in your success journey. Join our community of bold achievers and let us guide you from admissions, funding to visa success and beyond. If you have a bachelor's degree with at least a 2.8 GPA out of 4, and for Uganda a 3.8 out of 5, you're eligible to join us and your high school performance does not matter. Visit our website www.internationalscholarsprogram.com and grab our program handbook. Also, don't forget to follow us on social media. We're on Facebook, Instagram, X, LinkedIn, and TikTok, all at International Scholars Program. That's it for this episode. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one.